Without further ado, we shall now invite Mr. Abhilash Ramachandran, Digital Technical Engagement Program Lead, CTO Office of IBM, IT Hardware, Software and Services, to deliver his presentation entitled Storytelling, the Harbinger of Change. Mr. Abhilash, we welcome you on stage. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Richard. I'm just waiting for people to be seated. It's a Friday morning. The weekend is calling. How is the energy in the room, guys? Let's raise it a bit more. Music! Please stand up, everyone. Please, for a moment. Please stand up. Everyone is up. Now, turn to the guy on your right side. Okay, whoever is nearby, tell them, you are awesome today. Now, turn to the person on your left side and tell them, you are so valuable to this world. Excellent. Please take your seats. Thank you so much for your time today. It's another 50 to 60 minutes you've given me. I respect your time, and I will try the best to add value to that time. Thank you very much. Let me now start off with a quick introduction of myself. My name is Abhilash Ramachandran. I work with IBM as a program manager. 20 years back, I started off as a programmer, moved to some technical lead roles, project lead, project manager. You know the way, you know the path, you guys are the best. Got bored a bit with programming and technical stuff, moved on to operations, did a COO kind of a role for the financial services sector in IBM, in AP, and I've also proud here to tell you that I was responsible to set up a team around 100 big back in India across 3 cities, which was a back office for sales operations. That kind of sums up my career, 20-year career is just a few seconds if you think back, right? On the personal front, I'm married and I've got 2 kids. I'm so blessed to have my wife and see my kids grow up. My daughter is now a teenager, and I have a 12-year-old son. Every moment seeing them grow up has been so wonderful experience in this life. It's been also challenging. It's not easy when you have a teenage kid in your house and you are hitting your midlife crisis. So, let's cut into the subject right now, today. Leaders, project leaders, project managers, have you experienced pressure? Probably it's a wrong question to ask early in the morning, right? But don't get me wrong, I'm talking about the pressure that time has on you, right? When you're in a project setup and the timelines are decided, and you know you are being pushed and pushed and pushed towards the time while your scope is lying wide open, right? What do you do in such a situation? You get frustrated. You get depressed. You get angry. And now, what happens when we get angry and frustrated? We have to take it out on someone else, right? So what do? Your guinea pigs, of course, your team members. Come on, guys, come into a room, get into a boardroom meeting. We call everybody. We stand like the king on the top of the board, of the table, and we tell them, come on, guys, you did not deliver. The sales guy did not sell properly. He did not align the time properly. The resourcing team did not give me the resources in time. You blame everyone else except yourself. Your frustration, the crown of frustration that you're wearing, you pass it on to every other single person in the room and people who are not in the room. Think of it. We have seen this scene play out many a times. Be it sales, be it delivery of projects, we have seen this scene play out. Yesterday, when I was here attending the conference, the panel discussion, there was one common theme which came around again and again and again in the discussion of those leaders. And one of it was, most projects fail because communication fails. Communication is key to success. I mean, we all read the PM BOK, gave the exams, we passed through it, and we know how important and how integrating a factor communication is. Right? There's no doubt there. But what we are not doing is not communicating the right message at the right time to the right people in the right way. That's where storytelling comes into picture. Storytelling is much, much, much more than just communicating. Communicating is easy. It's simple, actually. Let me tell you something about it. I'll tell you how easy communication is. Are you able to show the slide, please? Yeah. And in the process, I will reveal some more about myself. I belong to the southernmost state of India called Kerala, and a small village, a small town, a small village called Thrissur. Okay. We guys in our town, when we talk with each other, in every single conversation between people, we talk about elephants. We love elephants. Actually, we love elephants so much so that when I'm 3 months in Singapore and I do not see an elephant, I feel homesick. When I go to Thailand and see an elephant, I am filled with nostalgia. Oh, I just miss my home. All that memories of elephants come flowing into my heart. Right? That's the power of elephant. But what does elephant got to do with communication and project management? We people, we have found a way to communicate with elephants. When we tell the elephant to sit down, it sits down. When we tell the elephant to lift a heavy weight, it does that. When we tell him to walk, the elephant walks. And the elephants have found a way to communicate with us. When the elephant is happy, we know he's happy. We can see it. When the elephant is emotionally shattered, when his girlfriend breaks his heart, we can see it in the eyes of the elephant. Right? So elephants can communicate. What is your excuse, guys? What's your excuse? What is your excuse for not going to your team member, having that heart-to-heart discussion, telling them the stories behind a project that you're leading, telling them why this is important? I'll tell you why. Because when I was doing programming, that was my first job. I used to just say, okay, this is the tech spec, just give me testing, do one test, fail, do another test, fail, keep coding, and just, I'm done with my job, right? This is what we are trying to do as a beginner in the industry most of the time. And that's where we need somebody really strong and really mature as a project leader, as a project manager, to tell us why Why are you doing this activity? Who is benefiting from that activity? What are the pain points we are addressing? And if I do not do it, what are the consequences? Right? So, when I ask sometimes some of the team members, or when they talk to me regarding their need to communicate but inability to communicate, somewhere it ends up in a discussion where they say, I am not good enough, right? I am not good enough. I do not know how to communicate, how to press the right buttons at the right time. It's a fact that all of us are not experts. All of us do not know everything when we start off. But the fact is we have signed up for this job. And when we sign up for the job, we have to do what it takes. If I do not know, I need to develop. I need to learn. I need to find a coach. Right? So that's kind of the preamble, guys. Let's go ahead and see if we can watch a movie here and delve further into storytelling, the next level of communication. Right? Can you please play the video, sir? It's around 2.5 to 3 minutes, but it's a wonderful video.
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ लगा गया यार से मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाप आ जाने दो। रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से झजरिया चुरा के खानी।
झजरिया?
मेरा साहब नमस्ते। नमस्ते। मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
नमस्ते।
दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो,
यूसुफ अंकल?
कौन?
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में हम दोनों झजरिया चुरा के खाते थे?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूद फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह। एक दौर था, मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था, मन मन मोर था।
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए। यूसुफ जी बड़ी याद आती।
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था, झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था। वो भी क्या दौर था, मन पे न जोर था। एक दौर था, मन मन मोर था। एक दौर था, मन मन मोर था।
भैया थोड़ा जल्दी।
मन मोर।
हाँ जी, कौन? हैप्पी बर्थडे यारा। يوسف ويوسف خبر بلو يوسف يا
Please switch to the slide, thank you. Did you experience the story? All right. Stories are about experience. If you read, it is not a head-to-head collision, right? It is not a competition of your intellectual capabilities, but it's a platform where the hearts meet and the hearts talk to each other. What else did you notice in the story, ladies and gentlemen? Any points you would like to tell me? What did you notice? Sure, sir.
It is addressing the heart rather than the mind and connecting with feelings. So when we do that, the bonding is more and we travel towards a common objective.
Exactly. Please give him a big hand, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very well said, sir. So the story is like the bedrock of the whole activity. On top of the story, what Google did at the next layer is they said, you can use Google to search for things like a sweet, in this case. I hope you were able to see the subtitles. I'm sorry. I know some people do not follow the language, but stories sometimes don't need a language, right? One thing is you could search using Google for a thing. You could go to Google Maps, search for a place. You could then search for visa processes on Google. You could book your tickets using Google. You could track flights using Google. So all the very different applications of Google is what they try to sell you. But you didn't even realize they're selling you this because you were lost in the story, right? Without knowing, you got in all that information. Plus, you also understood we need to change. Google was telling you to change the way you do things. You are not going to do the things the same way that your grandfather did it. The next generation is a Google generation. That's what they were trying to portray there. We didn't even realize that, right? It was done in such a subtle way that the final winner of this contest was Google. Right? Now that we have experienced the story, we know stories can be used to make a change in the way you do things and convey to you in a short span of time, right? 3 minutes, you know you can do things differently, much better, much more efficient. Let's take the next step and get a little more deeper and understand more details around why tell a story. Why tell a story? Stories are so simple. My everyday activity, I have a friend who goes to the market, comes back, he writes a blog about it. There's a story around the whole activities and the interactions that he had on the way, go to market and on the way back home. Who is your favorite storyteller, guys and ladies? Grandmother. Exactly. It's true. Even for me, it's my grandmother. And I still remember those days when I was a little kid, small little kid. I would love to lie on her lap, look at her face, and she would pass her fingers through my old wrinkling skin, but the fingers softly through my hair. And as I looked up, she would tell the stories, and I would not even remember when I fell asleep. Right? What was her qualification? Was your grandmother a PhD in storytelling? Did she have a degree? My grandmother didn't even go to school. Right? It is so simple. Don't make it complicated. Anybody can tell a story. Everyone is good enough. Everyone has the capability. Stories are timeless. You know, in India, we have a very famous story that every generation tells the next generation, like a Ramayana, the life history of Lord Rama. And when we were small, we hear these stories from our parents, our grandparents, sometimes even in our textbooks nowadays, I notice that. So we hear the stories and we grow up. And it's kind of said that these are like 10,000 years old legends, right? And it's an oral tradition which has come down till date. And once I traveled to Bali. When I travel to Bali, what I see is there's a drama show on Ramayana. And I go to Thailand, Bangkok, there I see the king is called King Rama. So these stories have traveled beyond time, beyond direction, beyond distance, right? So if you are capable of making effective stories, they do travel and they remain as a legacy that you leave behind. It works with all people. You go to your boss and you tell a story. What does the boss do? He listens. Oh, okay. That's a nice way. I mean, if you talk data, he will interrupt you. But if you talk story, he will listen to you. So try to sandwich the data in between the stories. You go to your peers, they will listen to you. You go to your team members, they listen to you. You go to your parents, they listen to you. Go to your kids, they are also listening to you. So stories work with everyone. So lean in to stories. Stories are contagious. Do you know what is the most contagious story? It's called a rumor. Right? And how do you make a contagious story? You know? Just go, whisper to your friend, hey, did you know? She got promoted. Her last presentation was a failure. Don't tell anybody, I told you, okay? So the moment you say, don't tell anybody, that's it, you got it. If you want to spread a story fast like a wildfire, tell everybody. Don't tell anybody I told you. Right? That's the secret sauce. Do that. Try it out. Stories are easy to remember. We still remember all the Jack and Jill stories that we read in our fables. Right? Have we forgotten it? It's far away. Many years back, but we still remember it because they live in you. Somewhere in your body, in your being, they find a small place and they remain there. That's the power of stories. Stories inspire. Like, for example, I go to a movie, James Bond movie, right? When I go to the movie, I go in like this. Okay, I have to watch the movie. Now I watch the movie. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. When I come out of the movie, I'm James Bond and standing da-da-da-da. Yeah, really. Have you felt that? Bruce Lee movies? Yeah, I used to do that. And we go to movie, I have a brother, so when we were young, when we go to Bruce Lee movies, come back, we are both Bruce Lees and we are fighting with each other. And there's no reason for that. The movie was the reason. Because we felt the Bruce Lee in us. We discovered the Bruce Lee within us. Right? It appeals to all kinds of learners. There are people who see and learn. There are people who hear and learn faster. the people who are kinesthetic, they need to do things with their own hands to learn. But all of these learners, when it comes to stories, all of them stop and learn and listen with perfect attention. It appeals to every kind of learner, right? Faster learning in informal settings. You do not need to book a boardroom to tell a story, right? If you're a good storyteller, if you're a good manager, you would walk around, take someone for coffee. You could meet under a tree. You could meet in any corner of your cafeteria, anywhere, and the effect of the story will remain. It puts people in listener mode. Sorry. It's like falling in love. When you fall in love, you're just completely enamored by the other person, right? Like, I'm sure all of you have experienced love sometime in your life. Any unlucky ones out there? No, don't put your hands up. Right, so let me tell you a story, okay? This person, he's fallen in love with his sweetheart. And the sweetheart, she takes an apple and she's eating. Crunch! The crunchy sound. And this guy's, wow, so sexy. So, my heart is broken like the apple. It's coming out. Then she drinks her coffee. And, you're melting with your sweetheart's actions. You're just completely head over heel in love. And now, you are in that journey, in a dream world, and everything she does is wonderful. But after 12 months, one day you're sitting on a chair, and suddenly, all those hormones which had pumped into your head are slowly going down. And you're like, hey, what happened to me? What happened? Everything was fine. Where are my friends gone? And then you hear a sound in the kitchen. Okay? You get up and go to the kitchen. And then you look. And there your once girlfriend, now wife, she's biting off the apple. And then you're saying, hey, please keep the sound low. You're spraying the platform. Can you please wipe that clean? Right? Have you been there? Right? Things change after a couple of years of marriage, right? So stories do the same to us. They just bring our hormones up. They bring us to a very different mode and make us listeners, entrapped in the emotions that the stories bring in. Try it. Let's move to the next slide, okay? Now you know why to tell a story. Let's get into how to construct the story. Nothing new. Nothing new. You know the once upon a time, right? Once upon a time is nothing but setting the scene, setting the context. You define your characters, you define your space, you define your time, and set the scene, right? Just ensure that your characters are relatable. Like when I started this talk, or when everyone starts the talk, they give an introduction. They tell you what is their background. They tell you what they've been doing, and kind of try to create a context and relevance to you guys out here. Because if I'm a rank outsider, I have nothing to relate with you. You might not be able to appreciate what I say, right? So it's important to set that context. Next is about the actions. So this is about the challenges the heroine, whoever faces, the line they walked, the experiences they had, the challenges they faced, and how they overcame the same, right? And then you quickly get into, and they lived happily ever after, which is about the results. You share a moral of the story. You go off with calls to action, what should be your next step, how to achieve your goals. And we will walk this talk in the upcoming slides, okay? The next slide is around a story about this great journalist called Rob Walker and his experiment that he conducted. He called it significant objects. So what he did is he decided to test whether stories really work. He went to the market, he went to a thrift market, and picked up 200 small little curios, small little objects, which were not very significant or valuable. The money he spent was just $129. Next, for these 200 objects that he bought, he contacted 200 storytellers and told them, this is an object for you. Can you please write a story about this and get back to me? They all wrote a story, got back to him. Now, what he does is he goes to Amazon and eBay, puts them for sale along with the story. And he was able to sell every single object. Any guesses for what price he would have sold them? Let that sink in. I wouldn't even go and try to calculate what was the percentage profit in this case. Stories can make insignificant objects significant. Stories can also make your experiences, which you think are insignificant, very, very significant for the world. Because each of us are unique. Each of us come with our unique experiences. And each of us have our unique stories to tell the world. You are all very significant, right? Don't keep telling yourself, I am not good enough, for you are the best. Believe in your unique ways, you are the best. The next few slides, I will talk about our anatomy and how stories can affect our anatomy and what kind of effect they have on our self, on why they create emotions. It's about a few hormones that make us what we are. And how we can use these, or the understanding of these, to invoke certain emotions in certain people at a defined time that we choose. Let's look at dopamine. Okay? What dopamine does to us is it piques our focus, brings us to a cliffhanger situation, the suspense, the thrillers that we wait for, right? We want to know what's next, what's coming up. Dopamine brings up that emotion in us. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this. I'm going to talk about a friend of mine. His name is Sam. Sam works in Sydney, Australia. He got married to his high school sweetheart, and they have a beautiful angel little daughter. Every day, Sam would start for office. This little girl would come and cling to him and say, "Daddy, Daddy, don't go today. Don't go to office. Let's play." That eventful day, he kissed his wife goodbye, kissed his daughter goodbye, got into car and drove to office nearly 50 kilometers away. He was working at that time for the government of Australia. He had a very long day, full of meetings, a lot of work, a lot of traveling around the city. And by the time he realized he had to leave home, it was almost 10 o'clock in the night. He got behind the wheels of his car, started the engine, and started moving. And as he was moving, his tiredness slowly started taking over, and he started snoozing behind the wheels. As he was slowly snoozing off, his car veered over to the other side of the road, across the divider. It now was going head-on with the traffic coming from the other direction. When he opened his eyes, suddenly he found that there's light blaring on his face from a truck that is coming up front. At that moment, this happened. Ladies and gentlemen, now, if I don't tell you what happened, will you kill me? Right, that's the power of dopamine. Dopamine pushes you to curiously know what is happening next. I see some Indian faces here, and I can recollect an Indian movie which did this. It was called Bahubali, where a king, at the end of the first part of the movie, the commander-in-chief comes and kills the king, right? And the story stops there. So from the next day, the newspapers, the channels, the magazines, everybody was asking the question, why did Kattappa kill Bahubali? Why did Kattappa? So till the sequel came 6 months later, the whole country was discussing, why Kattappa killed Bahubali? Everybody had this thought in mind. And it became a big hit for the next sequel as well, right? So that's how you use dopamine in your stories. Story. Okay, so if you want to know more about Sam, so it's on public demand, okay? Oh, so Sam has wrote a book after that experience. He's my speaking coach as well. He's a famous speaker, he's a speaking coach, and he's my coach as well. You should read the book he wrote, Bouncing Forward. So he went through the accident, and he recuperated. And his story is there in the book called Bouncing Forward. He put all his experiences into that book. Please take a note. Oxytocin. This one creates empathy. It keeps you relaxed. It kind of increases your trust in the person you're talking with, right? And that trust is very useful, I've seen especially in a corporate setup. When your team member does not trust you, right? When there is a lack of trust, they really do not want to work in the way you want them to. They delay things knowingly sometimes. But when there is trust, you can see that they sometimes go overboard. They extend themselves just to save your ass. Man. I've had people who have done that. You do not expect them to do it, but they just go beyond the call and do what it takes just to save you from your boss. Right? It has happened. I know all of you have had those experiences as well. Now, are you ready for the next dose of injection of hormones? Right? Can you take a deep breath and relieve the dopamine out of your body? Because now I'm going to inject you with a new medicine, right? And that is called oxytocin. This is a story of Gerald. Gerald was born in Sri Lanka and grew up there all the way till his teens in this town in Sri Lanka called Jaffna. If you remember in the 1980s and 90s, Jaffna was a center, the epicenter of a lot of riots. This boy would wake up in the morning hearing gunshots being fired. Two parties at war. When he goes out to see what's happening, he would see parties fighting with each other. The guns going boom, boom, boom. The dust is racing, the sun is scorching. Some people are lying down injured. Some people are dead. They cannot even fend for themselves. And people would worry whether I should go and help the person lying there dead or injured, or should I take care of myself? In this situation, overwhelmed with grief, confused about why humans are like this, he would go to his mother and ask, he would tug on her sari and tell, Mama, why are they fighting, Mama? Mama, will they kill me also? Will I be alive? In this sad situation, the mother, who was as helpless as anyone else, she would just pick him up and hug him tight and wipe his tears and hold him tight and say everything will be okay one day. When he slept in the night, he was not sure whether he would awake another day and see that beautiful sunshine. When he walked through his house, the pain always remained because on the walls of his house he could feel the marks of bullets. This made him to resolve that one day when he grows up, he will try everything to bring peace in his life and to his surroundings. This Gerard today works with IBM. He's my colleague. I blogged about him. I wrote his story. He was kind enough to share his story. So what happens today is this story is out there, and when some people, or some customers, for example, he's a technical sales leader, and when he goes out there and presents his case, and the world kind of knows his story, they do not treat him like a person with a halo aura of IBM, big company, big blue. No, they treat him like a human being who has experienced life so deeply. And that human aspect and that trust is brought about by oxytocin. Please breathe. Let the hormones go away. Relax. The third hormone. So these three together are called the angel's cocktail. And you should use these to create the positive vibes in your stories. Okay? What does endorphin do? I am not going to tell you another story. Rather, I'm going to show you what happens when an overdose of endorphin happens. Please watch this movie.
Bend your knees. Okay.
Kevin, I take you
Kevin, I take you
to be my husband
to be my husband
from this time onward,
from this time onward,
to join with you
to join with you
and to share
and to share
all that is to come,
all that is to come,
to give and to receive,
to give and to receive,
to speak and to listen,
to speak and to listen,
to inspire and to respond. Are you speaking or listening?
I'm sorry. Okay, to speak and to listen,
To inspire and to respond,
to inspire and to respond,
and in all circumstances,
and in all circumstances
of our life together,
I'm sorry, of our life together. Of our life together.
loyal to you
To be loyal to you
with my whole life
with my whole life
and with all my being
and with all my being
until death parts us.
until death parts us.
Yeah, have you been there where you could not control your laughter? Right? Breathe, please. Let go of the hormones. And now, let's look at this one. These are the two hormones called the devil's cocktail. Right? This kind of creates intolerance, fear, irritable, frustration. You remember the first scene of our movie where you were pushed against your timeline and you were getting irritable? That's where you are. And this one, many people associate these fearful hormones with data, with the numbers you're going to kill them with, right? We use numbers to demotivate people. You know, we use the timelines to pressurize people. So these things, of course, I do acknowledge in a project situation, these are also needed. We cannot escape those, but we should know how, where, when, the time, place, and circumstances to use the angel's cocktail and the devil's cocktail. Both are needed and should be part of your storytelling. You should know the application. Let's go to the next slide quickly. Handsome guy. Who has a mobile phone? Quickly, can you please hold it up? Open your LinkedIn. Search for this guy. And let's connect. Let's connect and tell the stories together. Let me, in the meantime, start with my story. I went into this project management role, program management role, where we had a platform in IBM, and we wanted to make the digital sales team use this platform so that their life becomes simple. They can use this to reach out to customers, to partners, etc. So when I got this role, I thought, oh, that should be easy. Who will not want to make their life simple? So like the great program manager with the cap on style, with the James Bond shades on, I went to the VP and told him, sir, we have this, Jim, you know, his name is Jim. We have this wonderful platform called Digital Technical Engagement. You can engage with the customers, you can engage with the partners. It's so easy. We have simplified everything for your team. So Jim looked at it. He said, you have a solid story. It's really impactful. I see how it can help my team. Why don't you go to the director? It's her team which is responsible for reaching out. Okay. So what do? I go, Madam Director, Alice, look at this. Wonderful platform. You can use it. Your team can use it. Make life easy for your team. Make life easy for customers, partners. So Alice, really nice. I mean, you make a point. I agree with you. You know what? Go and speak to my team leader. He'll be your final use case. He's going to use it. They are the people on the ground. Okay? So, again, I'm happy. Yes, I have convinced. I am a program manager. I am great. I'm doing well. Yo. I go running, team leader. Look at this. I said, wow, nice. I do the same story again. He's convinced. He said, wonderful. I will use it. So I'm convinced. I go back home saying, I did it. After 1 month, I look at them. I measure the hits on my website. I see nothing has changed. Yeah, you've been there, right? You think you have done your job. You're good. It's happening. But everybody's agreeing with you, right? When you shake your head, they also shake their head, but they don't use it end of the day, right? So I was completely now in a dilemma. I thought, I'm good. I've done it. I've gone by the books. I've told my stories. I've convinced people, but still they're not using it. That's when I started reading more about storytelling in project situations and in corporate situations and the importance of stories. And then I thought to myself, IBM as a company is great. Why is it great? It's great because the technology is out there. It's so superior. It can compete with anybody. Secondly, the people are also great. People make a difference in IBM. I mean, the best brains I've met. I just surrender all my weapons and just listen when these people speak. So they're so great. So I had an option. I thought, let me start writing about technology and the people, and start blogging about them. Probably there's more traction. So first I wrote about technology. I tried to put a blog out there for technology. Nobody was reading it. Nobody cares for technology. Then I said, okay, let me try writing about people, their stories. You know those stories out there? Some of the people, that lady out there is the CTO for Korea in IBM. This is Gerard. The first one on the left is Gerard. And the bottom is another colleague of mine who's the cloud AP leader, sales leader. So I started talking about their stories and their life stories and personal stories rather than just their official stories, right? That created a lot of traction. And then more and more people wanted to come in and write. So the message I'm saying is, to be quick, is when I started writing about the people who are going to use it, and one person who tried it, tested it, and got advantage of it, and more people read about it, they commented about it, and they wanted to know, okay, now that you have tasted it, and you have tasted success, and we can see that in your numbers, how can we adopt it, right? So I will just keep the slide here. Probably if you want to take a photo, we can take it. We have another 2.5 minutes to go. You could use it in your life. And this is how probably I also went through asking the questions and going through the troubles and finally coming out with a solution on how my stories can help as a program manager. Probably these questions are the same questions you could ask and come out with your own solutions and answers to your situation that you find yourself in. Moving ahead. So I hope you remember the storyline. We set the context, we set the introduction, we defined the hero. We went through the struggles of the hero. And we close off with calls to action. Be confident, believe in your awesomeness. Believe. You have to believe in your awesomeness. Don't come with an excuse saying, I'm not good enough, because you are unique, Just be your unapologetic self and share your stories. Your stories might not be great in the beginning. Does not matter. Does not matter. Be ready to fail, because nobody made it successful without failing. Nobody. So the attitude to fail and fail fast is what makes a success. Be open to fail. Have a great LinkedIn profile, because in today's world, recruiters judge you. It's a strong word, I know, I'm sorry. But they judge your capabilities on what they see on social media. Your social footprint is very important. Develop it, grow it through storytelling. Get a coach, right? We are all learning certain things. We learn to walk, we learn to run, we learn to read. We didn't do anything on our own. We got somebody to help us through every step of our journey. Don't be too proud, get a coach. Learn and improve continuously. And to close it, tell yourself, I am good enough. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Abhilash, thank you for enlightening us.
Thank you, sir.
You shared with us the power of storytelling and the art of storytelling, and indeed, we all are unique and we all have something to offer. I would like to invite Ruchi to give a token of appreciation to Mr. Abhilash. Let's give Mr. Abhilash a warm